I just wanted to have what I hope is an informal gathering to just make some comments about the governor's budget proposal and to make an announcement myself. With regard to the budget, I am mostly encouraged, and I'm mostly encouraged by the fact that once again now, for the second straight year, we are not arguing about what to cut. We're not dealing with bad choices here. The governor's budget reflects an approach that, in general, I think is wise. I've long said that we should put money away for a rainy day, that we should pay down debt aggressively, and I have also said that we shouldn't be shy to say that there is room with this kind of economy and this kind of a budget to invest and to reinvest in California's economy and its people. And so what I recognize here is that this is the first act of a four-act drama that plays out every year in California. Act 1. The governor proposes a January budget that focuses appropriately on fiscal restraint. Act 2, the legislature, led by the majority Democrats, begin their months-long intensive public process to not only examine that budget, but to put forward priorities which will largely be consistent with the governor's overall framework, but will push more towards the investment end. Act 3, the May revision, will update the numbers, and if the December numbers are any indication, there's no reason to think that the economic news should not continue to be positive over the course of the months. And then Act 4, the happy ending, where the Democrats and the Republicans, the legislature, comes together with a series of compromises that continue California's economic growth, continue our emphasis on fiscal stability, but make some key targeted investments in things that matter to people and our economy, and we get that done by the constitutional deadline of June the 15th. And so I look forward to the beginning of this process, and I look forward to pushing towards that Act 4 and getting the people's business done on time. Certainly, the governor's budget did not contain one of our signature priorities, the transitional kindergarten, the TK for all, the preschool for all 4-year-olds. I didn't necessarily expect that it would be in his budget, but he certainly now knows that it is a priority not just of the Senate, but of the Assembly leadership as well. And we look forward to, again, those conversations in Acts 2, 3, and 4, and to make that a signature accomplishment for the state of California for budget year 2014-2015. There are also a whole host of issues around California's frayed social safety net that continue to deserve attention, whether it's autism, early intervention for children with autism whose parents are Medi-Cal eligible, whether it is CalWORKS, whether it is the state of in-home supportive services, a whole host of things that we will continue to look at in our budget process and try to advance as much as we reasonably can. One of the things that I am especially happy about in the governor's budget, is the fact that his budget contains $210 million for recidivism reduction relating to alleviating our prison overcrowding in California. Now, back in August, we had a little tussle with the administration, and our caucus, the Senate Democrats were the one caucus that stood up and said we were not going to vote for a capacity-only plan. That led to an end-of-session negotiation that resulted in Senate Bill 105. Senate Bill 105 established a recidivism reduction fund to be invested in mental health, substance abuse reentry for people who leave, who inevitably come back without those kinds of investments. Between the $81 million that will go directly into the recidivism reduction fund, combined with the $128 million that the governor estimates will be reimbursed to counties for 678, which is the incentive to keep people out of probationers out of prison in the first place. That's $200 million. And so accordingly, it's over 200, it's 209. And it's exactly what we sought when we began this prison debate back in the summer of 2013. Accordingly, I have written a letter today to the three-judge federal panel urging them to approve the governor's request for a 2-year extension to the current prison overcrowding order. Because, at least in terms of a demonstration of commitment reflected in the governor's budget, over $200 million for recidivism reduction is the range, certainly, of what it is we sought. And we think that this kind of sustained investment will go a long way towards reducing the long-term cause of the perpetual overcrowding, the fact that 65% of people who leave prison and jail return. And why do they return? Because so many of them have substance abuse issues, mental health issues, and do not get the kind of wraparound attention that they need to minimize the chance that they're going to reoffend and thus be sentenced back to jail or to prison. I'm happy to answer your questions. Do you think that it was, was it wise for them to make budget predictions based on something that might not happen? Well, as I've said a couple of times, this is all a very odd process. You've got the legislature, you've got the governor, you've got the federal courts. It's rather unorthodox in terms of the way this part of public policy is playing out here in California, because we usually don't have the federal courts involved in this way. And so I'm very comfortable. And look, I was the original critic, and my caucus was the original critic of the governor's capacity-only solution to alleviating overcrowding. And that's why we felt it was of sufficient importance that, we said no. And we ended up with a good law, SB 105. That law, though, was incomplete because you have a recidivism reduction fund in theory, but where's the money? Follow the money always, right, when it comes to how public policy, what the real public policy intentions are. Well, I think the governor's budget is a demonstration that in this area he is committed to a real investment to do the exact thing that we have been calling for. And so accordingly, I want to just add my voice to, in a formal way, to the court, to the three-judge panel. I said this kind of a commitment, which I'm confident the legislature will approve, maybe we'll even up it a little bit, that is grounds, in my opinion, for the court to consider a 2-year extension. Whether they do or not, that obviously is up to the court.
What about the plaintiffs in the lawsuit? Are they open to that?
I don't know. I would note that the governor's budget also includes some relief around issues like medical parole and some of the things that the plaintiffs' attorneys as well have called for, whether or not that's sufficient or not. Look, what's odd about this is, okay, we're the legislature, we pass a budget. The governor signs a budget. The governor is also the party to a lawsuit. You have plaintiffs who are not elected representatives, but who have every right and standing, as they have maintained for a decade, to pursue the lawsuit. You have the three-judge panel that can't tell us how to spend money, but they can tell us whether or not the conditions of the prisons and what we plan to do, not only short-term but long-term, meet constitutional muster. So all of that collision, if you will, and all of that intersection has to fit together in a way that allows us to move forward. And what I'm saying is that the governor putting $209 million into the budget for recidivism reduction is significant. And I would urge, on behalf of the Senate Democrats, for the court to look at that as more than a sign of good faith, but earnest money here, and to take the step to give the state that modest extension, no absolute relief, but an extension to be able to both deal with the overcrowding, but more important, or I should say as important, because it's not more important, as important, to be aggressive about dealing with the front door of the prisons and the jails. And I hope that the court looks at my letter on official letterhead, well typed and well constructed, and that they obviously that they at least consider our point of view here.
Do you think high-speed rail is appropriate use of cap and trade, President?
Well, I think this is going to be one of the central issues in the budget, and this is the way that I look at it. What's more important to me than making my own conclusion on that question at this time, what's more important to me is whether or not the administration puts forward a credible plan that shows how they intend to fund the next extension of the high-speed rail project. I've never been one who said that you have to show how you're going to build out the whole system at one time. But we all know that you've got the Central Valley line, and then you have the proposed extension from the southern end of the Central Valley to Southern California. And how does this one particular proposal, funding proposal, fit into an overall plan to get that extension done in a timely fashion? That's the question for me. So I'm open on the issue. I would point out as well, though, not just to tout my own bill, but it's a significant bill, that I have SB 1 pending, if you will, in the Senate. It's already passed through the legislature. We have not sent it down to the governor. This is the bill that would recreate tax increment financing for projects consistent with the SB 375 vision, the Sustainable Communities vision. The tax increment dollars, which would be in the billions, significant dollars could be used to help defray the cost of high-speed rail stations and development around high-speed rail. So that's an example of sort of one of the things I'd like to see here. How does this cap and trade proposal fit into an overall funding proposal to get the next stage, the next leg of the high-speed rail project built?
You say you want to see a credible plan, or are you saying the previous plans were not credible?
I'm saying that the spending plans need to be updated, and they need to be detailed and refined. I want to know specifically how we're going to fund that next stage from the southern part of the valley to Southern California.
Senator, does the governor's plan address the social safety net cuts that have been happening in recent years? Does it do enough to address those previous cuts?
No, it does not. And the damage was so deep and this damage was so real because the cuts were so deep that I don't have the expectation that we're going to be able to make up for all of that damage in 1 year, 2 years, or 3 or 4 years. I don't. But we ought to be making steady progress to pick a couple of areas every year. Look, in last year's budget, I would point out to you that the governor did not propose restoration of dental care for 800,000 Californians. The governor did not propose significant investments in community mental health and crisis stabilization beds, didn't propose anything on career education and career pathways in high schools. This year's budget now reflects what we fought for and the fact that now we're going to cover 800,000 low-income Californians who have not gotten dental care, that we're going to put into place now 2,000 crisis stabilization beds for people living with mental illness and 600 workers. And we've got a $250 million career ed trust fund that where the money is going to begin to be invested by industry and by high schools to create these career pathways. And so we were very targeted last year, not on little things, but on real things. And we were able to achieve our targeted goals. I expect that we're going to approach the budget in a very similar way again this year. Rainy day, pay down debt, yes. Argue and negotiate about the degrees and the amounts in each of those pots, and that's how much then is left over to make some targeted investments and targeted restorations. Yes. Yeah. I tell my Republican friends, don't worry. It'll all be all right. Look, I think the record speaks for itself. When we were in the worst times, we made the cuts. Now that we are in better times, last year when everyone expected us to go wild and try to make up for all the damage in 1 year, we didn't do it. And you know why we didn't do it? Because we're smart, number one. And number two, nobody wants to go back to a multi-billion-dollar deficit. But at the same time, and I say it in different ways, and I'm not sure what kind of catches on, but to me, there's always the danger of overreaching. We get that. We're very cognizant of that. But there's also the danger of underreaching and not taking advantage of good opportunities. You know, and on the investment issue, it's absolutely the right investment to retire debt. Absolutely. I would argue that it is an equally important and positive path to invest in those things which undeniably make the economy better and which help people.
On the rainy day fund,
yeah.
Can you talk about whether you feel like the governor's proposal is better than the one that the legislature had approved, or whether you want to use yourself waiver?
I don't, you know, I will admit that I have not fully analyzed the specifics of the governor's proposal, but I am confident that it's better than what we passed in the legislature several years ago. If you remember, that was Governor Schwarzenegger's last year. The budget was 100 days late. I hate to remember that, but I do remember it. And that measure was flawed, and flawed significantly. And I can tell you one flaw among a few. It required the state to put 3% of its general fund into a rainy day fund, even in bad times. Now, you put money into a rainy day fund during good times so that you can draw out of it during the bad times. And the fact that we were compelled, really, given those circumstances, to agree to something that would require us to put money in during bad times, I think that's one part that needs to be changed. I think the governor's proposal will undoubtedly be better, but we have to analyze it. What else? Anybody else? One more? I didn't hear his press conference today. What did he say? Did he? Well, I got to tell you, it's appalling. And I don't know whether he was knew about it, but you know, we're all responsible for our own. We're all responsible for the operations that we lead, and those facts are appalling. I mean, that there would be some retribution taken to make to close down a bridge or to make it more congested. I just couldn't believe it. But I don't know any more than that. So okay. Yes. Go Niners. Yeah.
Talked about like your thirds approach and liking
Yeah.
Just curious, the $11 billion figure that we're pushing forward.
Well, that's where the negotiation, I think, takes place, right? I mean, I can look at the third a couple of different ways. When you look at his pay down of deferrals on the Prop 98 side, paying down that debt then relates directly to more spending and more investment in education. So which third does that come under my framework? I think I have to talk to my budget experts a little bit, Craig, there to sort of figure that out. I do know this. I know we want to do universal preschool, transitional kindergarten for all. And that's a Prop 98 expenditure. I think a very good expenditure, $198 in year one. I think we can keep it under less than $1 billion. I know on the non-98 side, there are going to be some targeted restorations that we're going to want to make. And so I think, though, I'm very confident that we will be able to work with the Assembly and with the governor, and that we'll be able to bring this budget in on time and continue California's economic recovery. All right? Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.